We were waiting to find out what was going to happen with Brett Kavanaugh, and because we don't have a government of 100 reasonable senators that actually think about and consider every decision, we had like 3 people that we weren't sure how they would vote. And we came into this day thinking maybe they had been convinced by Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh's testimony, the FBI investigation that came after it, maybe that had swayed them. And so we're waiting to find out how they would vote. Well, very quickly through the course of the day, we figured that out. Here's a little matchup of 2 of those senators.
And do you plan to vote yes tomorrow?
So unless something big changed, I don't see what would. But anyway, I'm glad we had a better process.
What did you think of
better
House
process.
voting no?
Mr. President, I will vote to confirm Judge Kavanaugh. Thank you, Mr. President.
So Flake was earlier in the day. Senator Collins, we cut out the first 3.5 hours of her speech and just gave you the important part that she'd been wasting our time with before you just say whether or not you're gonna put the attempted rapist on the Supreme Court. So those are 2 of the big ones. We'll get to others in a bit, but how did you guys react to those?
Duh.
Really?
And this is Flake's thing. It's just been his thing. It's kind of been, and it's frustrating every time. He is very verbal about how almost like against this and disappointed in this administration and this process. And this is not just regarding the Supreme Court nomination. This has been going on for the past 2 years. But if you pay attention, his tweets don't match like what he's done and what he's actually supported and what he believes. He is, pretty gosh darn partisan, and that's kind of what's important to him, I think. So I'm not surprised that he kind of put on a show, but then has been, gonna do the same thing the whole time. It's like nobody wants to look like Lindsey Graham, but you'll be him.
Just how sad and put out he looked.
Yeah.
Just like this, like what's the matter? Like you didn't do anything.
It's Halloween.
You added a week to this process, which yielded what? A pretty empty FBI report that by many reports seemed to be limited in scope by the president who tells the FBI what they can and cannot do, in this case anyways. And at the end of it, you didn't do anything.
Yeah, and so you saw in his statement, he said we need a better process. He said it.
He said we got a better process.
Oh, okay, even worse. We got a better process. Susan Collins, in her long speech, the beginning part of it, a lot of it was this process has become too crazy. It's become too partisan. First of all, at the end of the day, I really don't care about the process. I care about the result. But if you have a problem with the process, look at what end result of the process you have delivered to us. That at the end, it looks like the guy accused of multiple sexual assaults will end up on the Supreme Court. But you're okay with that part of the process. It was, the people were screaming a little bit. Or there was partisanship. That's what you're bothered by?
There was a long part of her already long speech which made Christine Blasey Ford out to be a bigger victim of the Democrats than she was of Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Where she said, I love Dianne Feinstein. She would never leak it, but some bastard did. And in doing that, they made it worse. But so she does, Dianne Feinstein or whoever it was on the Democratic side went against Christine Blasey Ford's wishes in making this public. So Susan Collins is going against Christine Blasey Ford's wishes in making her accused attempted rapist a Supreme Court justice.
You can't have it both ways, and they're all kind of a lot of them with these speeches and these tweets and these announcements and these sound bites. You either believe she's a liar or you believe he's a liar. You cannot have it both ways. And it's all this like long drawn out discussion like, oh, she's such a victim to the process and this. You think she's lying. No. That's why you're like.
No, didn't you hear him? It's really convenient the way they have it. They have their cake and they get to eat it too.
Right.
They have their cake and they get to say, you're just confused, cake.
Yeah.
Your addled little lady brain doesn't remember how you were made, cake.
You were either too crazy or too stupid to actually know who tried to rape you. Yeah. And but don't think that I'm against women. That was the last part of her thing. Was that's the other, I guess that's the eating of the cake, is they want women to think that they respect them and trust them and all that, while saying effectively that they're either wrong or liars. But honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter either way. The guy is going to get on the Supreme Court.
I mean, Flake has been kind of doing the same thing the entire time, though. This idea, he sat there and almost in the same breath said, "I'm not sure what happened. I'm really confused. I think we need a different process. Oh yes, I will vote to advance." So I don't understand what any of that.
He's also such a moron.
Like right in the same sentence.
He said he wouldn't have been able to do this very brave act of calling for a week-long delay if he was still running for Senate.
Oh my God, that is sad by
And
itself.
just the
end result is sadder, but that was sad too. So look, we're gonna talk again about other senators and all that. I want to talk a little bit more in depth about what Susan Collins said because I listened to the entirety of it and aged as a result. There were a number of problems. So she went back and for the first, I would say at least 25 minutes, was just talking about all of the problems people said they had with him prior to all of the sexual assault stuff. And what's interesting is that I think the point of this speech is to sort of preemptively defend herself from GOP critiques that could lead to something like a primary the next time she's up. And so she wanted to explain all of those sorts of things. But she also went on the record on almost every issue where we're worried about this guy and said why we shouldn't be worried about these issues. So now, when he gets on the Supreme Court and rules exactly like we know he will, she is on the record naively predicting that he won't do what he's been chosen to do. I mean, there were a couple of issues that were the biggest. So she said, even before his name was out there were left-wing groups who were going to oppose him, as if, of course, there weren't right-wing groups that were going to support him no matter what, saying that they spent dark money against him. Okay, well, there was far, far more money spent on the right in support of him. She didn't say anything about that. She tried to present him as not only a guy who would respect Roe v. Wade, but in general, he's just a guy who respects precedent. Just really, hold on really fast. That she believes that he was put on a short list by organizations that are far right, radical, judicial, like trying to push to reshape the Supreme Court, that he was chosen because he respects precedent just so damn much. That is what his judicial philosophy is just even-tempered. We're gonna continue to let things go the way they are. That is why the far right was saying to Donald Trump that you have to choose this guy. The best case scenario is that she is far too naive to actually be a Supreme Court justice, but I don't believe that at all. I have too much respect for her. I think that she is lying to you to defend herself from what she sees as a more likely difficult potential primary process next time around than any sort of general election concern that she has.
Yeah, and she's the last person speaking. And so she seems like that one who really, like whether she was or not, she's that one who really thought it over, mulled it over, and gives you this description. All I was gonna add to what you were saying is literally on the record, the head of the Federalist Society says there is no difference between any of the judges on this list, period. Like I don't care who it is, what it is, when it is. But that's it.
I do disagree with one thing though. She wasn't the last person who spoke.
Lamar Alexander?
No, there was one vote we didn't find out about until afterward. And so look, as frustrating as it is for Jeff Flake.
Before you move on to Manchin, sorry. It was just watching Susan Collins at the end paint him as such a sweetheart. That's what it was. She's just making it seem like the same thing that led him to be on this short list of the Federal Society. Like everything about this guy. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, and look, and bear in mind, as she wants you to believe that she's really mulling it over and she's thinking really hard about it. Again, there is no scenario where they don't get a radical conservative for this spot on the Supreme Court. They're gonna get that either way. She is making the case that it has to be him. And she says that people's faith in the Supreme Court would go down if he doesn't make it on the Supreme Court. This guy that ranted and raved and cried and sniffled his way through his testimony, that if that guy doesn't get on, people's respect and trust in the Supreme Court will be irreparably harmed. I have those fears. I have concerns about the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. And I think a lot of people do, but they don't run in the direction that she seems to think that they do.
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.